The FujiCast is an independent loading zone production.
Monday, 25th of May.
The FujiCast.
Welcome to the FujiCast daily for one more week of lockdown. Then Kev's going to unlock the front door. He's going to peer out and boldly go where no Kev has gone before for the last 8 weeks. Yeah.
Well, just because we're not doing the dailies doesn't mean the lockdown doesn't still exist.
That's true. But as I was saying that, I was thinking, no, let's not turn this political, because there are various people, of course, being doorstepped for activities like that right now in this country. Say no more. Not Kev, though. But does it feel like it's getting a bit freer? Do you think? Does it feel like... You know, when we went into this, I remember you and I talking every single night. We used to be sat there. Makes it sound like it was 5 years ago, but 8 weeks ago, you and I used to sit there in the evening and look at the stats. I don't even remember the site now, but you studied the stats and we'd talk about them for hours, wouldn't we?
Yeah. It does feel like people are relaxing a little bit more, rightly or wrongly, but, think that... What do you do? You've got to move on a little bit, haven't you? You've got to take guidance for sure, and listen to the guidance. And right now, they're still saying, if you can, stay at home. So that's what I'm doing. Yeah. And I think we are due here in the UK. We're due another update a week yesterday. So Sunday coming, we're due a governmental briefing. That's the 3 weeks, and so they will say then what the new set of rules are. And I suspect that's when they will relax things quite substantially. Do
you think so?
I might be wrong, but I think they will, because everyone else has, and
Yeah, no, I mean, I read in the news this morning some fabulous news from New York. It isn't weird to say fabulous. This is not. Sorry, that entirely inappropriate phrase, but it is better news that the death rate has gone right down, isn't it? And New York really suffered. So I still, my little brain can't quite fathom how when we all come out again that it doesn't just go rebound. But there's far cleverer people than me saying that that's not the way it goes. So I'm trusting in them.
There is indeed, and let's leave it to the people who are clever and understand.
Just a couple of housekeeping notes. The Big Monday show starts up again on June the 8th. Can't wait for that, because we do enjoy doing it, and I'm really hoping, Kev, really hoping that you and I are going to be able to be in the same studio and start those rolling again, because that would be amazing. So that I'm fingers crossed, touching wood, and obviously keeping in touch with all the rules and laws and regulations that we get to learn
if
about.
Not, we can go to a park and do it. Because you're allowed to be in a park with somebody from the other family.
That's true.
We could go to a park.
Yeah,
an outside broadcast.
Knowing you and I would sit there, it'd be raining. Kev, pass the umbrella. I've only brought one, socially distanced. You'll have to get wet for the next minute. So yeah, that would be nice. And I you know what I'm like. I'm a bit squeamish, or whatever the correct phrase would be, about mentioning the podcast awards. But we shouldn't we?
Yeah, BritishPodcastAwards.com/vote. Not telling you what to vote for. That's all we need to say.
But you put your vote in for the Archers already.
Yeah, vote for the Archers. Yeah. Well, the Archers technically isn't a podcast, you see.
No, it's a replay of something, isn't it? Really?
Yeah. Yeah. So BritishPodcastAwards.com/vote. Do your best.
Will do. What's that? A Mustang going past the background, or is that Git growling?
No, they're out on a dog walk. It was actually a.
Look, there it goes again. It was a quad bike.
No, he's down the hill now. Yeah, that's the Echo.
What do you live in? Mad Max land? Quad bikes. Right, let's go with the questions. Hi Neale, hi Kev. Quick thanks for all the dailies. They've been a great source of entertainment and knowledge throughout a hopefully one-off crazy time. You bet, Peter Johnson, County Durham. I certainly hope that's what it is. Quick question, I'm buying a second camera for my day-to-day stuff. Family trips, holidays, you know the score. The Fuji X100F is on sale at the moment, and even slightly better deals than the Fuji refurbished. From Fuji refurbished, rather. However, I see the new shiny X100V going, the latest and greatest in the series. I know this new model does not make the F a bad camera and all the rest. However, which would you go for? In the grand scheme of things, you're probably taking an extra 400 quid for the V. So is it worth the extra for what it offers? Peter Johnson in County Durham.
Well, interestingly, I put a picture on Instagram last night, and because it was a picture of one of my battered up cameras, it got more likes than most of my other pictures.
That, yeah.
And it was.
I liked it.
X100F.
Yeah.
And the question was, what's your desert island camera doing this?
And
you'd be amazed how many people said to me, why aren't you using a V? Why haven't you got an X100 V? And the fact is, I can't afford one right now. I can't justify spending whatever 1,300 quid or whatever it is or 1,500 quid or whatever it is on a new camera. So I'm actually not qualified to answer that. I can't say to you the X100V is better because of this or that, whatever. I mean, on the specs wise, yes, of course it's better.
Yeah,
and yes, I did hold it for like half an hour or so. Did, yeah. But that's not enough for me to be able to sit here and I'd feel very disingenuous if I said you must buy the X100V. That would just sound like me, being an ambassador, and that's not what I'm about. So I haven't used the X100V. I can't really say that you should go and buy it because it's better than the F. I still have the F. I love the F. And it does everything I need it to do. Your mileage may vary.
Well, since you kindly invited me with those that are members to the Cargate Collective, the F has been at my side all the time, Kev. You'll be delighted to learn. If Peter, you were thinking of doing some filming with it, then I might suggest the extra 400 quid is very much worth the wait. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, on the specs wise, yes, you can. We can roll off the fact that it's there's 4K video. It's got the little flippy screen. And it's got the newer sensor and the new film simulations and all that stuff. But that's based on specs. It's not based on real life. And and those that know me know I only write my reviews based on actual real life usage. Yeah. And I will as equally talk about the negatives of something as I will the positives. And so I'm not really going to sit here and say go and buy it, because I don't know.
Jury's slightly out at the moment, perhaps, but if I could afford one at the moment, I would, Kev.
Yeah, well, so would I.
If I could afford one, I would. This one came in, actually, I've only just seen this message from Paul Timlett. Hi, chaps, yada yada, great show, blah. he's beginning
blah.
He's creating his own new phrases. I was interested to hear Kev's views about cookie notifications on websites. This might feel a bit unfair throwing this at you. Have you seen this email, by the way, Kev?
This is one that came in about 15 minutes ago, isn't it?
Yeah. Without thinking I'd enable the notice on my own Squarespace website, although I also hate them. I've removed the notification from my site for now, but that doesn't mean I'm not complying with GDPR? ? Don't tracking cookies capture personal data by identifying the location and server ID of the person looking at my website. After all, they provide the analytics, which are so useful to website owners. Appreciate you need to caveat your reply with a disclaimer about not being lawyers, but I'm interested to hear what led you to not include that notice on the FujiCast website.
Well, I'll tell you what led me to not include it. It's because I think they're horrible and a complete and utter pain in the butt.
Careful.
I hate them. I hate them.
But
and if there's one good thing that's going to come out of us leaving Europe or the European Union, it's the fact that we will no longer have to have those ridiculous, horrible pop-ups.
I'm sorry to tell you, I think that's one of the things we're going to have to keep, I'm afraid, Kev.
What? No, it's a European directive. And also we'll be able to have bananas that are not perfectly shaped and cameras that can record video for longer than 30 minutes.
Okay, well,
anyway, other than that...
Hang on a minute. Can I just come in on those two there? The cameras that can record for more than 30 minutes, as we learned yesterday with Ask Andreas Part 2, The Revenge, now that's disappeared. We're allowed to have them. And the only thing that stops you recording longer than a certain amount of minutes is purely the heat. Dissipation of heat. And the bendy bananas, by the way, that was Boris that wrote that article when he was working as a journalist. It was
by the way,
absolute fabrication.
I'll come back to the GDPR stuff. I have a little bone to pick with you.
Oh, go on then.
I haven't listened to the episode with Andreas yet. And Gemma said to me this morning, she said, "Oh, did you listen to the Andreas episode?" And I said, "No." She said, "He called you a snob."
I didn't. No, Andreas did.
Yeah, exactly. Something to do with Dixon's.
Oh, yes, I know what we're talking about. We were talking about the XP. It was the XP, isn't it? Do you remember when we were... I think we were talking about this only about a week ago, and you said to me, oh, the XP, they're the kind of cameras you get when you go on holiday and buy them from Dixon's.
Yeah. Oh.
And Andreas said that you did sound like you were a bit of a camera snob with that.
Right, that's it. I'm gonna buy Sony's.
He did it tongue in cheek though, and by the way, he did say that there was no way that he was going to have that they were about to sort of invent a new one that looked better, or whatever the phrase that he was, sort of in line with an X series camera, because that really was what the person writing in was talking about.
Right.
They wanted a kind of, I think what they wanted was a waterproof, shockproof, bounce-proof X100
for £149.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what we were talking about, that it did seem a rather impossible journey.
Which comes in a blister pack hanging on a shelf in Dixon's at airports.
Absolutely. Don't be a snob now.
So anyway,
going back to Paul's question.
Get off my snobby shelf. So back to the GDPR stuff. Honestly, you're right. I'm not a lawyer, but what I hate is, and it's actually the worst thing, or the funny thing is, if you go to an American website and they're delivering these notifications to Europeans only because of this directive. So if you're in America and you go to a particular website, often you won't see this ridiculous thing. But you go to it and the entire screen pops up and it says, "We take your privacy so importantly. Please click all of these checkboxes. If you accept that we are going to use your cookie, sell your soul, be your soul, move your soul, everything else, press this button. I'm not a robot. Press this. Tell us how many pictures of dogs there are in these 9 pictures. Boom, 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 boom." And then at the bottom, you've got to press OK. That drives me absolutely insane. I just close the websites down.
Does it trouble you? Does it trouble you?
I don't care. Honestly, I do not care. And I do not put GDPR stuff, those pop-ups on my website. What I do in my privacy policy on my websites, which you should all have a privacy policy, is it says, in accordance with GDPR law, this website may track your cookie data. None of it will be used for spam or sold or any of that kind of stuff.
So you do have a legal policy on it, which is very much like, I might be out of my depth here and saying something, and please correct me if I am wrong, but I don't think I've ever seen one of those messages or the pop-ups on the BBC, for example, which is a fairly large website.
Yeah, it's probably all buried in their privacy policy.
Yeah, it's privacy policy.
Which is fine.
Yeah.
I hate them. The heebie-jeebies.
Should we move on? Paul Wright, hi gents, still loving the podcast. Just wondering how you chose the a couple of web questions here. How you chose the web domains you finally went live with for your personal or business sites, as I'm currently in the process of creating my own WordPress site for non-professional use. I'm not sure if I should be including my own name or something more aligned to the style of photography I enjoy. So what do you think? Paul Wright, aka Bilebog. What?
Bilebog on iTunes. What has he got? He must have a podcast or something then.
Yeah,
iTunes.
Must be, yeah.
Bilebog. I'm going to look that up and link to it, so it better be good.
Yeah.
I would say if it's not for business, personally, I would have fun with your domain name. I chose f16.click for my personal website because I never shoot at f16. And that was the funny thing that nobody ever really cottoned on to.
But you couldn't put 2.8 though, could you? Because it wouldn't work.
No, I did look. I spent probably a ridiculous amount of time looking for a domain name, but in the end I went for f16.click. Ministry of Shadows came to me like a whirlwind on a dog walk.
Oh, it was a brilliant idea, that. I when you told me that, I thought, Kev, that's amazing.
And ever since I've called it Ministry of Sound.
I know you have, yeah.
But yeah, for the business one, I remember going on a Jerry Gahonis workshop once, and he was saying, I can't remember what he called his business now, but it wasn't Jerry Gahonis, it was something else. Oh, yeah. And he was saying, look, if you're serious about this, and as a business, ultimately you may want to sell your studio, and you won't be able to sell your studio if it's attached to your name.
Yes. And he's right.
Which is a very valid point.
Yeah.
However, the fact is, we are shooting weddings in our own particular style and format, etc. So we are the business. And if we were to sell the business, which effectively means you're selling the bookings, the person who's going to buy the bookings will be shooting in a different style. So, it's not about that so much. But I get the point with bigger studios, and certainly kind of not so much personal photography. But yeah, I mean, if it's not for your business, and something a little bit more quirky will be something easier to remember. Simple as that. Unfortunately, I would say Paul Wright is relatively common name, certainly here in the UK. So what you're unlikely to find if people type in Paul Wright into Google, there's going to be a lot of other stuff pops up. Yeah. So yeah, I think it's something a little bit different.
What about .co.uk, .com, .net? I'm seeing a lot more .co, just .co popping up now.
Yeah, and that's mostly because the rest of them have been taken. I mean, I've looked at millions of domain names that are just dead. There's nobody on the end of them. The website's empty, but they're registered already. People back in the kind of early noughties, late 90s, it was on trend to just go and buy loads of domain names that you thought ultimately people were going to pay you millions for.
Oh, some people did make a lot of money at that point, didn't they?
Some people, but not that many. Certainly, not that many people would buy a domain name now for a lot of money, unless it was particularly branded. Yeah. I mean, I used to have MicrosoftSurface.com. That was one of my domain names.
Yeah, you told me that. Were you able to keep that? Because some people clawed those back, didn't they? So legally, you can't have it.
Well, correct. So I didn't keep it. I had it. It's another long story. I had it because when I worked at Microsoft all those years ago, they showed us this prototype of this thing, which involved being able to flick pictures between. They would look like two little, those old Space Invaders tables you used to play sat in a pub. You'd sit down at the table.
I loved them. I tell you what, they're worth a fortune these days if you get those.
Well, I remember Paul Allen coming over from Seattle, and they showed us these two little tables, and they were like that, glass top tables, and he would flick pictures from one, and it would appear in the other, and everybody was mesmerised. And this was years and years and years and years and years ago.
Great idea.
And he said, so the working title for this is Surface. So I went home and purchased MicrosoftSurface.com. And of course, Microsoft never really got on with the Surface project for many years. By that time, the domain had gone and just disappeared, and now is the MicrosoftSurface.com domain name.
You could have made a fortune, Kev.
No, I couldn't have, because ultimately it was branded. So they would have just come to me and said, you own this domain name, we're going to take it off you. And and I'm quite right, because it's a brand. That's their brand, so that's fair and in all love and war.
There's still an advantage, obviously, if you're a British photographer to have a .co.uk, if you're American to have a .com. Australia, of course, have their own, blah, 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 blah. So are you doing yourself a disservice by just having .co? Or
I'm not so sure these days. It used to be that Google would use the top-level domain, the TLD, they call it, .co.uk, .co.click, whatever, as an indication for where the business was directing its traffic.
Yeah.
Not so true these days. However, if it's one of the more ambiguous ones, such as .click, .photography, etc., then it will need to do a little bit of digging around in your website and kind of profiles to figure out where you're based. But not so much these days.
So it's not a disaster these days to have, because once upon a time it was very much, don't do that, don't touch that with a barge pole.
Yeah, and you used to have to tell Google that you were based in the UK. So if you had a .com domain name, you'd have to go to Google, what was then called Webmaster Tools, and say, look, I'm not in the USA, I'm in the UK. And you'd have to tell it physically that you wanted to target google.co.uk, but it's clever enough these days to figure it all out.
Do you think, I also wonder, because I've got some news at the end of the show, the domain that I'm thinking about for the particular show that I'm going to tell you about, I was thinking, should it be .co.uk? Probably not, because actually I'm just as keen to have American listeners as and Australian listeners and New Zealand listeners as I am to have British listeners. So
then go for .podcast. I'm sure .podcast is a
that's what you would TLD. And I always used to, that was my conversation. My next question was going to be, I think you've covered it. It doesn't matter as much as it used to.
No.
But you will still have to tell Google, though, won't you, that you're based in the UK, or does it not matter at all?
That option is just disabled now, and Webmaster doesn't exist any longer. It figures it all out.
Does it? All right.
Yeah.
Right, Fraser Young. Good day, Kevin and Neale. Guess where he's from, Kev?
Aberbargoed?
No, where's that? Wales?
Aberbargoed. Yeah, have a guess.
Is it? Is it close to Merthyr?
It's not too far away.
Did you ever have a girlfriend in Abergarvide or whatever it's called?
Aberbargoed. No, I didn't have a girlfriend.
Okay.
I played rugby there a lot.
All right. Thanks for the daily podcast, chaps. It makes my nightly power walks less boring. By the way, have you ever thought about visiting Australia? The snakes are all asleep for the winter, so you should be okay, Kev. Here's a slightly philosophical question. Last one on the show this week, so stand by, Kev. Or today rather. What makes a photo a good photo? There's a how long is a piece of string question. My take is, if my client likes what I've captured, example for weddings portraits, then it's a good photo. But what about my own personal interest photos? I think that if I like it, that's all that matters. Dynamic range, bokeh, however it's pronounced. Let's not bring
blurriness,
depth of field, colour, expression. May have a part, but in the end, if I like it, I like it. What do you think, blokes? Does it even matter? Max from Oz.
No, it doesn't. In my mind, it doesn't matter. I often say, in fact, I have it written down on one of my websites somewhere. A picture doesn't need to be good; it just needs to be important, and that's it.
Well, can't work out, by the way, why it's from Fraser Young, but he signs off Max from Oz.
It's probably a spy. Probably a spy. Probably works for MFI or something.
I don't understand that. My brother has a cattle property in northwestern Australia. A couple of summers back, a rather large eastern brown snake. Google it, so I did. Fast-moving, aggressive, known for their bad temper. Eastern brown snakes, together with other browns, are responsible for more deaths every year than any other group of snakes. Not only is their venom ranked as the second most toxic of any land snake in the world based on tests on mice, they thrive in populated areas, particularly on farms in rural areas with mice. If disturbed, the eastern brown raises its body off the ground and gets ugly quickly. Victims may collapse.
Sounds like me.
Venom causes a progressive paralysis and stops the blood from clotting. That doesn't sound like you. Which may take many doses of anti-venom to reverse. Victims may collapse within a few minutes. That sounds like a bundle of laughs. Anyway, said this one got into the farmhouse and they couldn't find it. Now, I did think about you at this point, because the other night when that, mayfly got into your place and you couldn't find it, you obviously went to sleep in another room. But can you imagine that? Having an eastern brown in your house and thinking, well, I'm not quite sure where it is. Let's just forget about it, like you do with a money spider.
I think the way I would have dealt with that is got in the car, drove to the airport and moved to New Zealand.
Thankfully, the local snake catcher was able to find it. Guess where it was?
I have no idea.
In a wardrobe. Can you believe that?
Trying on clothes. Yeah. The local snake catcher. Imagine having a local snake catcher.
Oh, great job. So sorry.
Anywhere where there's a local snake catcher in the yellow pages,
you don't want to live
in there.
No, I can imagine you. Does it have a snake catcher? We're not going. Anyway, going back to what makes a photo a good photo. I think it is down exactly to what Max or Fraser, I'm not quite sure what went on there, what they said. It's entirely relevant to what you feel about it, isn't it?
I mean, it's worth throwing into the mix here that you if you're doing, say, competition entries or portfolio pictures or anything, then yes, you do need to think about things in a different way. Good light, good composition, good moment, all those three things come together. We've spoken about that a billion times. But ultimately, when it comes down to your own pictures or the pictures that your clients love, then yeah, absolutely, it's just about the importance of it. It doesn't have to be good. We don't need to. It doesn't have to be pixel perfect, and it doesn't have to have perfect strobes on it, etc. It doesn't. It just doesn't have to have. It could have those things, of course, and that could make them equally as good. But it's just ultimately what they like, and what's important to them, for me at least. But
I've got to say though, Kev, I don't think your family photos are a work of art, and that might sound like a lot of grandiose talk, but no, they really are. I mean, when you're making your pictures on holiday in Spain, sorry to mention Spain, you think I think in the same way that when you're photographing for a client. I really do think you do.
Yeah, I do, but at the same time, I suppose I'm not advocating that you should just do snap 100,000 snapshots and hope for the best. It's certainly not for a client. But if you I've got pictures. Don't forget, when it comes to the family pictures, and of all the pictures that I show publicly from Spain, there's probably 1,000 that I've taken, with my iPhone, or well, not my iPhone because I don't have one, but my Huawei, that are just family snaps, and they're probably more important than anything else. It's it's just what makes people smile.
Where do you put those pictures, by the way?
Where do I have those pictures?
Where do they go? Because they're not the ones I see in your house, and certainly not the ones I see on online.
No, they go mostly in my Lightroom catalog.
Do they?
And I typically, on my Huawei, I take pictures with my Lightroom mobile app, and so they go in the cloud in Lightroom, Adobe. And I'm a stickler for not having loads of pictures on my phone. That when you take a picture of your dinner or something like that, if once I've done what I need to do with it, which might be send it to WhatsApp or something, then I get rid of it off my phone.
Gone, right.
Only the ones that I want to keep will go into my Lightroom cloud, if you like.
I bet you never take a picture that you don't somehow adjust with your Lightroom app?
Oh, no, anything that's kind of going onto WhatsApp or something like that, unless it's for my pub mates. Yeah, then I'll normally just stick a profile on it or a filter on it. Or
Even
something.
then, Dodgy Dan and Big Phil and whatever the other names, I can never think of all those.
It's not dodgy. It's not Dodgy Dan. It's Dan Air because he's a pilot.
Oh right, okay.
It's Fat Phil.
Fat Phil. That's the famous one. Dan Air is inspiring.
Yeah, he's a pilot.
I flew on a Dan Air jet.
It's a proper company, didn't it?
Yeah, well, that's how old I am. And in the days where you were allowed, I was working with the BBC at the time, and they let me go up in the cockpit for the landing going into Paris.
And you called me a snob.
No, at all. No, there's the days you could do it. You can't. I mean, can you remember? Surely you're old enough, Kev, to remember Mum or Dad leaning over and saying, "God, can little Kev? Can he go up and maybe go and say hello to the pilot while he was flying?" And you'd go up there, and the pilot would turn around and, "Hello, yes, do you want to be a pilot, son?"
I've never been on a plane with my parents ever.
Oh right, in that case, then no. Moving on.
We used to go to Barry Butlins on holiday, son. Barry
Butlins. There's not a lot of Dan Air flights going into Barry Butlins, are there? Right, that's it for another day. Oh, I almost forgot. Can I mention the new podcast?
Of course.
I'm starting a new podcast myself, and it starts on Monday. And guess what? It's going to be a daily. It's not going to be a daily like Monday to Sunday like myself and Kev have been doing, but it's going to be a Monday to Friday show. So it's a shorter show than what you've been listening to with the dailies here, because there's kind of snapshot editions and there's going to be a one big focus edition. It's like 4 features each day. There's going to be photography news, thoughts from a daily photo walk, a DM or an email from pros and enthusiasts making their own photo stories. So it's not like Q's and A's like I do with Kev, because I wanted there to be a difference, but certainly want to hear about things that you've been up to. And then there's a short bite-sized daily inspirational thought from a handful of photographers that are selected each month. And then at the end of the month, there's a focus edition, a long-tail documentary show between 60 and 90 minutes in length, with an established photographer who has a life behind the camera to share. So that's what I'm doing. And it starts next Monday. So we end on the Sunday, I start on the Monday, and then the normal Monday show comes back for the FujiCast the week after, doesn't it? So it's going to be called Photography Daily. Photography Daily.
Well done.
Does what it says on the tin. Boom. And that's it for another day. It's our favourite one of the week tomorrow. Kev, Tech Free Tuesday.
Tech Free Tuesday. Although I do feel like since we did the website podcast episode where somebody left us a 1-star review because we were talking about websites, remembering that, we do seem to be website help support.
Yeah, so
which is fine.
No website questions tomorrow. Yeah, I think we've just about done the website questions now, Rick. Kev, I don't think there's many left, to be honest.
Call your website what you want. Put on your website all the pictures you like. Don't have those ridiculous GDPR things coming up. And if you can make it a funny URL, Bob's your uncle.
You're done. Has anybody got getphotography.co.uk yet? Probably not.
That's a good idea.
Go sign it up now. See you tomorrow, Kev.
Bye-bye.
The FujiCast is an independent Loading Zone production.
Goodbye, sweetheart. Well, it's time to go. We're back tomorrow with another show. Well, unless we're fired, we'll talk to you then. Goodbye, sweetheart. Goodbye. Goodbye.